Hello everyone, in this lesson, we will answer the question what is a function instead of trying to explain with words what a function is. Let me show you visually what a function is. So let's jump into our text editor and open up the index.php file that lives in our theme folder. Let's try to write some new code here together. So delete this sample line of text and then let's drop in or enter into PHP mode. So remember from our first taste of PHP lesson to enter PHP mode, it's less than symbol, question mark, PHP and then maybe down on this line, out of PHP mode. So question mark, greater than symbol. And then in between those two lines. So where my cursor is now we are free to write PHP code. So remember from a lesson or two ago we tried echoing out a math problem. Right? We could say echo 2 plus 2. So if I go ahead and save this app then refresh my website, fictionaluniversity.dev, here we see the answer. Right? 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay, so that should jog our mem. Now let's have our first look at a function. So let's delete this line and let's create our very own first function. We don't even know what a function is yet, but let's 1. So write out the word function and then a space and then we can make up a name for our function. Why don't we call it my first function? Write the name. Doesn't really matter. It's up to us to choose a name. And then right after that we don't even need a space. Let's just open up a pair of the open and closed parentheses. Let's add a pair of curly brackets. These are the same curly brackets that you use in CSS, so you just hold down the Shift key and then press to the right of your P key. Okay? And in between the two curly brackets, I like to drop down to a new line just to stay organized. Okay? And in between let's write out our echo 2 plus 2 again. Now if I save this and refresh the browser, we do not see the number 4. We don't see anything. It's just a completely blank page. And that's because this code here that we wrote is a function definition. So really all we did here with this code is we took the task of adding 2 plus 2 and we gave it a name. My first function. So a function definition like we have here doesn't actually do anything. It's just a description of an action or a task in order to actually run this function. Right? And actually evaluate 2 plus 2. What we can do is below this function definition. So maybe on a new line like right here we just type out the name of the function. So my first function and then include parentheses and let's include a semicolon at the end of that line. And now if we save and refresh we do see 4. So this is how you define a function. It's like the recipe for the action that you want to take. And then this is how you actually run or call or use the function. Now what's cool is you can use the function again and again and again. You can recycle that rest. We could say it again. My first function. Save it. Refresh it and now we see a second 4. This is a little bit confusing because it looks like 44. But really it's just the number 4 and then there's no spacing and then the number 4 again. So let's try something a little bit clearer up in our function. Instead of echo 2 plus 2. Let's delete that. And instead let's say echo out a string of text. So give me double quotes and then let's create an HTML paragraph tag. Right? Question mark, so the opening and closing tag in between them. Let's say hello, this is my first function. And let's be sure to add a semicolon at the very end of this line to let PHP know that we are done with this action. Okay. And now if we save this and refresh, cool, we see it twice because we are calling the function twice down here. So you only have to define a function once and then you can use it and reuse it as many times as you want. So if I copy again. So there's 3 of them. Obviously we see it 3 times. Okay, so now that we've learned how to create a function and then run or call the function, let's go delete all of this and try something a little bit more advanced. So first, let's give ourselves a goal. Let's imagine that we want to create these 2 paragraphs. Name is John and my favorite color is blue and hi, my name is Jane and my favorite color is green. Now when I say that we want to create these two paragraphs, I type them out like we see here instead. What I mean is because these two lines are so similar to each other and the only unique parts are the names and the colors. Why don't we try to create a single function that can generate both of these paragraphs? So let me delete these and try this out with me up here in our PHP area. Let's create a new function. So to do that, we just spell out the word function and then a space, and now we make up a name for the function. Why don't we call it greet? Okay. And then right after that we don't even need a space. Open up a pair of parentheses. And then after the parentheses, let's open up a pair of curly bracket, the opening and closing curly brackets. Let's drop down to a new line and then let's echo or output a bit of text. So we want to wrap our text in double quotes. Okay, so in between those quotes, let's just begin an HTML paragraph tag. Then let's close it out. And in between those we will say hi, my name is blank and my favorite color is blank. And then at the very end of this line, let's be sure to end it with a semicolon. Okay. And now, right below our function definition here. So down here, let's just call or run the function once for John and once for Jane. Greet parentheses semicolon. That will run it once and then let's just run it a second time. So if I save this and refresh in the browser, cool. We see the two paragraphs. So now all we need to do is find a way to pass information about John from this function call into the function itself. Right? Because we don't want it to say blank and blank. So check this out when we call the function for the first time. In between the parentheses let's say John and let's do the same thing for Jane. So in between these parentheses let's say Jane. Okay, now back up in our function definition within these parentheses, let's add a dollar symbol. And let's say name. Remember from an earlier lesson that the dollar symbol is how you create a variable in PHP. This isn't a special word. I just made it up. We could have said unicorn or pizza. Okay, the name doesn't matter, but for now let's just call it name because that makes sense. Our names. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a variable of sorts that we can use within the meat and potatoes of this function. So we can use this dollar symbol name variable wherever we see fit. So all we need to do now is just remove this blank. Right? We don't want that. And let's replace it with dollar symbol. Now before I explain what's going on here and give you the technical names of what we're doing, let's just go ahead and save this and test it out. So if I refresh in the browser. Hi, my name is John and my favorite color is blank. Hi, my name is Jane and my favorite color is blank. So let's review what's going on here, and we call the function down here twice, this little bit of data named John and this little bit of data named Jane. Those are called arguments, and within a single function call like this, you can include multiple arguments. So check this out. Right after the John end quote, let's add a comma and say blue, right? Because blue was his favorite color. Let's do the same thing for Jane. So after this first argument of her name, let's add a comma and include another argument. Her favorite color was green. Okay. So if we are calling a function and giving it two arguments, we better make sure that up in our function definition, we are ready for two parameters. Think of a parameter as a hollowed out variable or a little container that can receive the incoming arguments. So we already have a parameter to receive the incoming name. So right after that let's add a comma and then let's just say $color again. The parameter name doesn't really matter. You can make it up. You can use whatever name you want. Okay, but what's important is that now we can use $symbol color within the body of this function. So let's go ahead and delete second blank here and let's replace it with $symbol color. Let's save this and refresh. Cool. So we see my favorite color is blue. And my favorite color is green. Okay. So that's how you can create your own function and use parameters to receive the incoming arguments so that your function can be flexible. Okay, now let's change gears and bring this full circle. Let's tie it back to WordPress. So the beauty of WordPress is that it comes bundled with tons of its own pre-built functions that we can leverage. Right? So WordPress has already created and defined lots of functions, and then we just get to come along and run or call or use those functions. So for example, down here, once we are out of PHP mode. Right? So this line closes PHP mode. So down here in regular old HTML mode, let's imagine that we want to create a large HTML headline, and we want the contents of this headline to be our website's overall name or title. Well, WordPress has a function that will give us our website's name. So check this out in between the H1 tags. Let's drop into PHP mode. Okay. And then let's exit PHP mode. Okay, but in the middle of those two, a WordPress function named bloginfo. Okay, so this is a function that has already been created and defined by WordPress, and what this function can do is give us all kinds of about our website, and within these parentheses we just provide an argument to tell WordPress what little bit of info in particular we are looking for. So single quotes and let's say name. We want the name or title of our website, and let's add a semicolon right after that just to tell PHP that we are done with this task. Okay. And if we save this and refresh, cool, we see the name of our website now. In case you're wondering where this is coming from, let's hop over in and tab into the admin dashboard of our WordPress website, and towards the bottom of this left-hand sidebar, hover over Settings and then choose General. Okay, so see this first field named Site Title, that's the name of our website. So if we change this from Fictional University to Amazing University, and then scroll down and click Save. Now if we refresh the front end of our website, we see that name change reflected. Cool. So this function, bloginfo, we did create or define this function. WordPress creates it for us, and then we just get to leverage it. Now the cool part is that we don't need to understand how WordPress goes into the database to dynamically find the name of our website. WordPress abstract backs away all of those technical database details, so we don't have to worry about it. All we have to do is run this convenient function. Okay. And that's really the heart and soul of 95% of custom WordPress development. It's just knowing the WordPress functions that are at our disposal and then running them in the right place at the right time. Let's try one more example before we close out this lesson. So that below this headline, we want to include a paragraph that includes our website's slogan or tagline or description. In case you're wondering what I'm talking about, back in the admin dashboard on this general settings screen, we see that the second field is named tagline. So by default, WordPress sets this to just another website, but we could change this to the best university in the world and then scroll down and save that. Okay. And then back in our code, if we want to dynamically output the tagline in between the paragraph tag, let's just drop into PHP mode and close out. But in the middle let's call that bloginfo function again, and then we can give it an argument to tell it which piece of information in particular we want it to return. And we will say description. Let's add a semicolon here, and then let's save this and refresh. Cool. There's our slogan or tagline. And now if in the future we ever change the tagline from the WordPress admin area, so if I change this to "We are pretty good" and then save it, our front-end website will automatically always display that value. Okay, so now at this point we are at least a little bit familiar with what a function is. And now there's only one more topic we need to go over before we can start doing powerful, actually useful WordPressy things, and that topic is arrays. So what in the world is an array? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover in our next lesson. I'll give you a hint right now though. Understanding arrays is what's going to let us start displaying dynamic WordPress content on the front end of our website. Things like posts and pages. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you the next lesson.